This Christmas finale is shorter than planned due to a guest falling through, but it is all the sweeter for it. For several decades now, NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, has tracked Santa's movements on Christmas Eve. It is a huge logistical operation running over 24 hours. To find out more, I talked to Major General Constance Jenkins. She is the Director of Logistics and Engineering at NORAD and will be manning phones next Tuesday. I really hope you enjoy our chat. General Jenkins, thank you very much for sparing the time today.
It's my pleasure.
So many people believe Santa isn't real, but NORAD's actually been tracking him for decades now. And I'm curious about when NORAD first became aware of him.
So it's a really fun story. Back in 1955, we had a local newspaper misprint, and they printed the name of our unlisted number. And so this child called in and got one of our colonels that was working on the operations floor. And instead of the colonel being grumpy and old and saying, "You've got the wrong number," he decided to kind of play with it because he knew that he was going to continue to get those calls all night. So that was the night that NORAD Tracking Santa was born under the Continental Defense umbrella. And we've been doing it ever since. It's really exciting.
I was also wondering if were any personnel hoping to find him? Was that why they joined NORAD?
Yeah, we actually have people that join NORAD so that they can get into the system. I don't know if it's for Santa or aliens, but yes, there are people who are very interested in our tracking processes.
So we're about a week away from Christmas Eve, and I know that the tracking Santa is a real sort of logistical feat. So I wondered sort of if you could explain more about how it goes about it.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So I tell people Santa is the greatest logistician of all times because he manages to get all those gifts in his sleigh. He manages to get the route spelled out exactly the way he wants to do it that year. And we never really know what the route is. So whatever Santa decides the route is, that's what we do. And he is really good at all the logistics pieces of it. From our perspective, we have a lot of pieces of the tracking puzzle that require a lot of logistics as well. The radar sites have to have maintenance and upkeep, and then the satellites require some logistics. And then, of course, the fighter pilots, they're flying in the state-of-the-art fighter aircraft from Canada and the U.S., and it's really important that they be 100% top-notch, and that's all logistics.
I also read that I think NORAD received something like 12,000 emails and 70,000 calls.
Yeah, so actually last year we got 400,000 calls to our call center. We have about 1,000 people that man that call center, and they run in 2-hour shifts. And by the end of that 2 hours, you're exhausted because the phone never stops ringing. It rings and then you hang up and it's ringing again. And you could go from a child in London to one in Alabama in 2 seconds. So those calls start coming in at 4:00 Mountain Time on Christmas Eve, and we're just monitoring Santa on our operations feeds and telling people where he's at.
And it's all volunteer staff as well.
All volunteer, yeah. We don't make anyone track Santa. We have such an overabundance of people who want to do it that we turn people away every year. So we never have a problem filling every available seat.
How's preparations going now?
They're coming along nicely. So some of the things we have to do in order to track Santa is we have our main operations floor that does all the domain awareness tracking for the continent, and we have to split that effort so that we have an operations center that's doing just tracking Santa. So we are in the midst of doing that, the finishing touches on the website for the tracking, and then all those operations feeds have to go into the website and into our operations center. So we have big TVs up in the operations center where we can see exactly where Santa is at that moment and where he's headed to next.
Has anything exciting ever happened on the night?
There's always something exciting because you never know who's going to call. So you'll get a grandpa that says, "I didn't know this was a real person," to the person who said, "Are you a real Major General?" To the little kid in Madagascar who said, "Where's Santa?" And I said, "He's coming to Madagascar." And he said, No, I'm in Madagascar." And I said, "Well, you better get to bed because he's coming right now." And he dropped the phone and yelled, "Mom!" And she picked the phone up and said, "Thank you." And then off to bed he went. So you never really know what kind of calls you're going to get. They're all exciting.
As you said, Santa's one of the greatest logisticians. And I appreciate that the information's classified, but given your expertise, I wondered if you had any ideas as to how Santa pulls off such a big operation.
So Santa has a lot of Santa magic. One thing is he plans his route and he moves by starlight. So he can move faster than any other activity in the sky, which can make it a challenge for us to find him. But he slows down long enough for us to catch him, so we can keep track of him. And then the other piece is just from logistically, he manages to load all of those presents into that sleigh. And it's absolutely phenomenal how he does that. Building all the gifts throughout the year, getting the gifts ready, getting them wrapped, and getting them in the sleigh has got to be a logistical feat.
I mean, we shouldn't forget Mrs. Claus.
Well, she's got the most important job to make sure that Santa's fed and has his big round bowl of tummy going on there so that he can get out there and do his thing. When the kids leave the cookies, I know she's appreciative of that because that means it's less cookies she has to bake.
I wondered if you think there's anything organizations can learn from Santa.
So I think there's a couple things. The one is that anything's possible if you can figure it out. And the technology, the way it is now, we're solving problems that when I joined the military in 1989 seemed like they were unbelievably hard or impossible to solve. So those problems are solving. I always joke that we're living a kind of the start of the Star Trek era from when I was a kid. So I think that that's one lesson we can learn from Santa is, if you believe you can do something, you just got to figure it out and you can make it happen. And the other one is sometimes a positive attitude is what you need. The world's full of people that seem to be naysayers right now. And I think a little more positive magic is important for everyone.
Finally, is there anything you're hoping for from Christmas next week, Father Christmas?
I've already been told I'm going to get it. I am working here in Colorado Springs. My husband lives in Oregon. My daughter lives in Minnesota. So I'm very excited. They're all going to join. And we're all going to NORAD. We're going to do NORAD Track Santa together. And we're going to spend Christmas together, which, with adult children, sometimes you don't get that. So I've already got my Christmas wish.
Oh, that's amazing. General, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I want to thank Major General Jenkins again for sparing the time, as well as John Ingle of NORAD for setting it up. I started this podcast several months ago, and it's been like building a plane while falling through the air. Before I finish for the year, I want to give special thanks to Paul Klein, Anna Reed, and Joanna Lillis, all of whom agreed to be guests when this show was just an idea in my head. I also want to thank my other guests, Damian Collins, Armel Khan, Ryan Fecto, Edward Shawcross, Lisa Mueller, Andrew Nocti, UC Hanamaki, Carl Cashman, and Kerry Brown. And I want to thank all of you who've listened to the show. You're the real stars. As a Christmas present, I would love it if you could like, rate, and comment on the show. I have some great guests lined up in January, as well as other exciting plans. But for now, I'll just say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.